All right. All right. So I just want to share a little experience about Camp Coagape. It was actually my first time going, even though I've been here for a long time. There's all those schedule conflicts. So I just wanted to share some things that I've noticed and I really appreciated. One thing actually, before I start, one thing that I found very beautiful at the camp is that there were no participants on their phones. Even though there was a lot of shy kids, like people who didn't know each other, none of them were on their phones, distracting themselves during the entire workshop. Well, I mean, of course, it's because they took the phones away, so they didn't have their phones. But that was still a very beautiful thing to see. At the end of the workshop, they had to give the phones back, and then you saw a lot of kids, couldn't resist the temptation to go on. But that was just beautiful to see how they took the time. These children, they are coming from different parts of the Midwest, Michigan, Ohio, Minnesota, other places, Nebraska. So they never met each other before, but it was just beautiful to see them making friends right away. So again, all the parents who pushed their kids to come, thank you. It was good for them. And all the parents who were not successful in pushing their kids to come, better luck next time. It's going to be a good experience for them. All right, so the thing I really want to share that I guess learned and appreciated about the workshop was the heart of service and of the staff. So, the staff, these are mostly a lot younger than me now. They're like the director, his name is Ricky, first time I met him. He's 24 years old, about. And it was just amazing to see his heart of service and care. His singular mindset for the entire workshop was on the growth and the experience of the younger people. It was really touching to see. That kind of attitude. We see that a lot in our first generation, in our parents. So sometimes it's easy to take that for granted that, like Mio-san's working hard in the kitchen, Uncle Wayne's working hard every week practicing for the music. So it's just really beautiful to see that, Seiji and the staff are just working so hard, and they're up late at nights, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, talking with each other as a team meeting. What experiences did we have during our staff during our group discussions? How can we have a better experience tomorrow, better discussion questions for the participants? And then, of course, they have to wake up at 5:30, so they're operating off very little sleep. And anyways, that was really nice to see. For example, another example I would like to share is I got to see this kind of heart of service in people that I guess I haven't seen in this way ever. Like, for example, I'll use the example David Lee. So I've known David for a long time, probably like 20 years, but I've never seen David like this before. Like, he was one of the core staff, and the team leaders, they were sharing their struggles during the workshop. They were sharing the struggles to getting the participants to share after a lecture. And David was just kind of, he had his normal expression on, very serious. I wasn't sure if he was spacing out or what. But after they finished sharing, I just heard the most amazing words of encouragement. And I did not know that David was so charismatic before. So that was really incredible to see that side of David. I guess also, another example too is, Precious. I was less surprised about Precious. I've seen Precious being very charismatic a lot already, but still, I still sometimes think, and I know that her since she was a baby, so it was just really amazing to see how devoted Precious was toward raising up the younger generation. So I thought that was just very nice and inspiring. So that's just what I wanted to share. It's something that sometimes I don't see too often, or in my own life, to really just that singular mindset of serving other people. So that was very inspiring, something that I also want to do more in my own life.
Wow. Really, really cool. Thank you so much, Hiro. I think you don't get to hear that perspective very often about camp, right? Where the you know, because the participants don't realize sometimes how much work it is for the staff. So it's great to have somebody like Hira to acknowledge them. Thank you, Hira. And next, I'd like to invite up, drum roll? Should we do drum roll? Let's invite up David. Yay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David, and I would like to share about my experience in Kogape. It was better than this summer because last time I only got 2 hours of sleep every day, but this time I got 5 to 6 hours of sleep. This is great. Yeah, it was really nice actually. I was pretty comfortable. But yeah, I mean, I think so. I guess a little bit of information. I was kind of like the internal team for Kogape, so I was kind of setting up who was speaking, setting up the content, along with you might know them, but Aimi and Gabriel, Yuki's sister, and Gabriel they couldn't come, but also Patty Bard, if you know the Bards. We were a team setting up the education for the Kogape, and I think in that perspective it was a good experience because yeah, I learned. I mean, I think being able to allow these speakers to come up and like share these things is really nice to really have like more of like a perspective of letting the young generation or like the second generation a chance to really be able to share their own wisdom throughout their own experiences throughout their life. And I think yeah, as we were kind of getting on with the days and stuff like that and the meeting every week looking for speakers, yeah, we came up with a lot of really nice content, and Seiji was one of the speakers talking about high noon and sexual integrity. It was really great. And then, if you guys know August, what's his last name? Lindsay, and his wife, they came up to speak, and then Kosuke Inami and his wife, and who else was there? Maggie Repke, Julie, if you guys know Julie Purley, that's her sister. Yeah. And then, what was the last one? Rosia Kittle. Yeah, so she's from Chicago. But they were all giving lectures based on the theme of like relationships. And I think what I learned throughout this experience of being an internal core staff was learning more of like, I guess I learned a lot more within the content too at the workshop too. But I think it's kind of like being able to learn how to there are so many, just realizing that there are so many opportunities to serve like the community. So at the workshop, I mean, I didn't really do too much in terms of like being a team leader or like looking at kids and stuff like that. But I think in terms of myself, I have a challenge of expressing love to people. That's why I always have a serious face on. But don't think I'm mad at you. Sometimes I am, but think of the opposite. I'm usually normal, or like Hiro said, sometimes I'm actually spacing out. Actually, in those team leading meetings, I was spacing out like 3 seconds here and there, but I was paying attention to most of it. But yeah, anyways, yeah, basically what I learned was to really be able to, there are so many ways to really give. Even though I wasn't really a speaker or like a team leader, like the education of the speakers came up because we were able to be able to create that kind of environment for the speakers to really to give this kind of like education or content. And yeah, and I feel like there are so many like people just like realizing like, you know, a lot of people do ways to serve in a way where we don't really notice really expressively. And yeah, there's so many people who are like behind the scenes, kind of like let's see, Mio-san, her eyes are closing. But she works out in the kitchen, and then like I don't notice like half the time in Sunday service, but she works in the kitchen really hard. Or my mom, she cooks food, and I eat it, but I just eat it. But I don't realize how much work she puts in cooking her food. Or like music team too, like yeah, they like perform and it's really good music, but sometimes I don't realize like they put a lot of effort in behind it to really create that beautiful like environment. And there's so many ways that people help, and like sometimes it's kind of hard to tell because they don't really show it, but they kind of do it behind the scenes. And so it kind of makes me realize like there are a lot more people who like contribute to being able to create this kind of environment. Like for example, in the workshop, like it's not just like internal team that helped or like the directors that helped, but there's also like so many other people, like the team leaders and like the external team, even like the logistics, or people who even like drove to get to the camp. Like those are people who were able to kind of contribute to create that kind of environment in Kogape. So yeah, I think that's kind of one experience I kind of learned throughout like the time I was staffing. Like even before too, like as I was staffing too, like there are so many ways that like the core staff like helped out, like without me like noticing. Like actually like building like that content and like education like took longer than I thought. Like we started from like October or September and started planning from there to really create like a content worth 3 days only, which took like tons and tons of meetings to really create that kind of environment. So it kind of made me realize like, oh, actually like they put in so much work to kind of like previously like in the workshops before, like they create so much, they put so much effort to really create the environment that they create every year. I guess it's a year-long, effort, or like a semester-long effort that they put in. And so, yeah, I think I'm really grateful for everybody that was able to come, like even like participants too, like even though like they sign up and sometimes they might not want to go or they're like really shy, but like overall like they still contribute to creating that kind of environment. So yeah, I think that's something I really learned through this workshop. Really grateful for, I guess, whoever was here who contributed, like Precious, Karen, Rika, Seiji, like all these people, Claire too. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to share. Thank you so much. If you guys want to come to Kogape, please come with your kids. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Yeah, it is kind of mind-blowing how much it takes to make like great content or great, prepare beautiful music, right? Like, or a sermon, or these things. It takes so much work. All right, next, one of the participants, our first participant that we want to hear from, drum roll, please, Claire.
Thank you. Okay, I'll stand here. Okay. Hey guys. Good morning. So, I was really nervous coming up here, writing the testimony and everything. I texted David. I was like, I'm so scared right now. But I'll just give it to you. So you usually don't see me come up here, but you see my sister, and she looks literally almost just like me. And so you could get us confused. But yeah, I went to Camp Kagape. It was my first ever camp, or ever anything, since like 4 years ago when your mother came. So yeah. Um, I had these like 3 goals that I wanted to achieve when I went to camp. And one of them was to make friends, have fun, and like connect with God or have a God experience. So I remember Jacob Sar telling me like, I hope you have a fun God experience, Claire. And I was like, I hope so too, because I didn't know. And once camp was over, I remember not feeling like that connection to God or feeling like I didn't have a God experience like my sister had when she went to Summer Kagape. And so I felt really sad about this. And I was wondering why I didn't have that experience or that one moment where I could really feel God's love. And I was thinking back on it in the van when we were going back. And I realized that I connected to God through the brothers and sisters at camp because, I don't usually see any, I just see Ohio people. I love them though, but like, like, it was nice meeting new people. And so, I think either it was like God telling me that, oh, hi, Lolina. Either it was them like telling me about their experiences or them being really vulnerable or just like us having deep conversations together or like the hugs that they gave me and care that they had for me made me feel so loved and especially made me feel the love of Heavenly Parent. And when I realized that, I was like about to cry. And it's just because I think that God knows that I really love the second gen. And this also made me really appreciate true parents because they're like the source of our church and they did so much for us, like the second gen, for us to become blessed children. And so, uh, something else I was really grateful for was our team captains. They were so sweet and like so nice, and they taught me a lot, and I'm really grateful for them. And like the sisters in our cabin were so sweet. A lot of them were staff actually, and so I'm really grateful that for all this that the staff did for us because like as Hero and like David said, they work really hard. They don't sleep. Like they came back late, and so I wanted to also say that like instead of listening to your fear, you should listen to God or like the things that you think will be good for you. Because I didn't want to go to summer camp or summer kagape, and a lot of people had to like, I don't know, encourage me to go, and so I'm really grateful for them. And I think we should like follow like what we think would be best for us. So yeah, and then some fun moments that I had were like ice skating or the Nerf gun war that we did. It was fun learning how to like use the Nerf gun. Yeah, I hit David with the Nerf gun like a lot of times before, so it was really fun. So I wanted to talk about like pure water, like becoming pure water culture. That was like one of the main themes of the camp. It's like on our sweater. And I thought I knew what it meant before camp because like I remember your mother talking about it at Resurgence. Like I read her speech, and so I didn't really though because I learned like a lot of stuff and a lot of good education. And your mother says that we are pure water born by true parents. And I think that's something we should be proud of. As I mentioned before, true parents and the first generation worked really hard for us. And so I think I want to become pure water to continue to achieve God's dream of restoration and just like, like achieve True Mother's dream. Like that's what she wants us to become. So I think I'm gonna end off like this with this Bible verse that I learned before I went to Camp Kagape. And it says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." And so that's from Matthew 5:13. And at first, like, I didn't understand this verse. I'm like, what? They're talking about salt? Oh my gosh. And but actually in the Old Testament, salt, or like in biblical times, like back in the day, like salt was the things that they used to preserve like food because they didn't have refrigerator or like anything like that. And I think this verse is, when I learned it, I think it was like God saying that we preserve the fallen world because we're different and because we know the truth and because we like live by the spirit and not by sight, we can make the world different and we can change it. And I think that relates to being pure water because you're just because like pure water is also purifying yourself as well. And so I was thinking about that verse like the whole entire camp as we learned about it. So yeah, that's all.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm really impressed. That's like almost like a mini sermon, right? Wow. Who's in charge of figuring out the sermons? So next time, Claire. Very beautiful. Thank you for sharing about, Mother's words about pure water. And I feel like have to reflect after that. Like I need a. Thank you very much, Claire. All right. Well, we have two more testimonies to hear. So I'm excited. And the next person up is Karen. So let's welcome her.
Be quiet. Well, this time I was a staff for Kogabe, and it definitely was a different experience than I usually have because I had to take on a leadership role, obviously. But it definitely is a lot different from what I'm used to because usually over the summer I work with kids for like sports and whatever, but this time it was more for church, and it definitely was very different because you're not teaching them soccer. So, yeah. But first, I wanted to thank Precious because she was the one that convinced me to staff this year, mainly because she thought it was going to be understaffed, but it definitely was not. But yeah, and I also wanted to thank Ben. He was also team leading with me. I don't know what state he's in, but he's around 23, and I got my team like switched last minute, so he was definitely there to help me to adapt with my team because I had an all boys team. And it definitely was a little difficult because all boys, they don't listen sometimes, but we worked it out, it worked out, so thank God. But yeah, Ben was there to help me throughout the whole time, and he was definitely an older brother to them and me, so that was fun. Um, yeah, it definitely was a fun experience because taking on a leadership role with like people I like know, I guess. Not on a personal level, but like I know them from the past. I mean, I had Cornell, so it was a little different from what I'm used to because I don't usually take on a leadership role with Cornell because usually we're on the same level, but this time I had to go up and beyond. And yeah, a couple memories that I made were definitely the Nerf gun fight that Claire said. It it was interesting. Let's just say that. Thank God we didn't break anything because it was indoors, but I definitely did get trampled on, which was so fun. But it's okay though, because I had cushioning on top of me, because I had a mat on top of me while someone trampled me. And then I also had Rika dragging me across the floor because I was a dead body. I'm waiting for those pictures to come out because I still want to see them. Oh, where? Oh, I didn't get a notification. They're out. Never mind. I'll look at it after this. But yeah, that was also fun. And Also, the candle making that we did, that was hosted by Precious. That was really fun. I actually use my candle a lot. It's like halfway gone. And it smells really good. So, yeah. A couple points that I'm gonna take with me, or I took with me after camp, were that love others like how God loves them, especially like even if they don't deserve it, you should still love them even how God loves them. And another one was instead of fighting, help them help you. That is definitely something I need to work on because every time I'm like struggling with something, I like shut down. I don't let anybody help me. But that is something I definitely am going to work on and just like learning how to like give input on like or like tell them how to help me instead of just like expecting them to know how to help me and like have them read my mind and whatever. And I helped the kitchen staff serve food, which was a interesting experience with how fast we had to give food because usually I'm just like giving food and it's like a slow pace here, but over there it's like you gotta go fast. There's so many people, but yeah, and I just like got to like step into the foot of like being a kitchen staff and serving food to like other people, so that was fun. And I also gave my first testimony at camp. And I've never done that before because I hate giving testimonies. I don't know how I'm up here right now, but like, um, yeah, I gave my first testimony. There was a lot of people who was giving testimonies actually, but I also went up there and yeah, it definitely is a lot easier here. I don't know why. I think it's because a lot of people are just older, but who knows? But yeah, yeah, I had a great experience, and I hope I can staff again if I can go over the summer. So yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Wow, really, it's funny, like, you said, help them help you. I mean, did that hit anybody else? Like, that really hit me. Like, that's what I think everybody deals with. I'm sure even our grandparents in the house we're all still learning how do we, instead of fighting, share what we need in relationships, right? It's a very deep, high skill cap skill to learn. Thanks, Karen. I'm really glad you're learning that. That's so exciting. Awesome. And we have, before we invite our final testimony giver, I just want to open it up in case there's somebody that's inspired that would like to share that unplanned. So would anybody like to share a testimony about Kogape that is not already planned to share? Okay. All right. So we will. Okay. Let's come back. All right. So the final testimony for today. Thank you everybody that has shared already, and the last person will be one of the staff, Seiji.
All right. Hi, everyone. I don't know what else you need to hear. I think you heard everything, so that was good. All right. I mean, okay, so let's see. My role at camp was I was pretty uncommitted to go in October. And then if you know Andrew Love, he reached out to me asking me if I was like willing or available to go to any winter workshop and speak on behalf of High Noon. And I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. I was an immediate yes. I'm probably the easiest person to convince to speak for them, just because High Noon is very special to me, and I see the value in its education, but also just like living the way that that they recommend. So let's see. Yeah, so I spoke on behalf of High Noon at the workshop, and it's funny, but I think there's a common theme this year where the core staff were trying to get as many, because they thought they were going to be understaffed. And so in addition to being a speaker, I was also a team leader. So I gave a total of 4 talks, and on the first day it was 3 hours worth of content, basically. And then plus 1 like in the evening that first day. And then I was a team leader. So my experience, I really felt like this workshop for me was almost a culmination of everything that's happened this year for me. In terms of like practicing, understanding that I have very little control over my circumstances, except for like what I can do in like my reaction or like how I deal or handle with it. I learned that in Ocean Challenge, right? And earlier this year, my dad passed away. Like what the things that I took from that, or even beyond that. Like I actually started this year at Uncle Dave Wolfenberger's, the founder of High Noon's house, working for him in his crab business, working many, many hours. So I had an 18-hour shift at one point. That was anyway, very intense. And like, I've learned things over the course of this year and a little bit beforehand. And it was really cool to represent something I love and something I almost admire. I don't think it's quite the right word, but yeah, so going to this workshop representing High Noon and giving, like really intimate talks to middle schoolers and high schoolers about, like healthy habits and unhealthy habits, especially around sexuality too. So it was really good for me, and I felt like, I don't know if I could say I learned anything new, but it highlighted everything that I've learned this past year for me. Really cool opportunity. And then just the other day, I recorded a podcast with Andrew Love for like High Noon's platform, Love, Life, and Legacy. So, anyway, I basically talked about like this past year and a little bit beyond in terms of like my journey through High Noon and learning more about myself and really like building a healthy relationship for the foundation of the blessing. And it's just really exciting that this workshop was basically centered around how you can prepare yourself to be, a good person. A happy person actually is more important than being a good person, right? Being a really happy person for the foundation of a smashing blessing. So, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Seiji. That is really cool. God probably set all that up, huh? Like, finally, you're going to share everything at the end at the workshop from all that you learned from this last year. So thank you so much, everybody that shared their testimonies. Can we give them all a hand? And I think our workshops are such a important part of our community, and really grateful that we could highlight that today, and that the testimony givers helped us to experience a bit of the workshop. And with that, we're going to continue with the rest of Sunday service. And the next thing is to take a few minutes to share with one another, pair share with the person next to you. So we'll take just 2 minutes each or just a couple minutes each to share anything that stuck to you from the testimonies, anything that that hit your heart from the testimonies that you heard today. So find somebody next to you and share for a couple minutes each. Thank you.